Okay, so I'm here with Coco Briscoe, who is someone who people who are on TikTok and have followed the Danesh story for years may very well remember, but others who are new to the story, we have her here because she's a victim of Danesh Noshirvan and his basically his nefarious, his terrible, his harassing, his criminal ways. And we're going to have her talk a little bit about her experiences, what she's doing, and her experience with Dinesh and her life now and everything in between. So, Coco, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what's going on?
Hi, I'm Coco Briscoe. I'm a TikTok creator, and I've experienced a lot of online bullying and harassment since becoming a TikTok creator.
Okay, and so why don't we start from the beginning? How did you start on TikTok?
I actually started out on TikTok doing a dating series called Dating DC. I was new to the DC area. I had moved into the area from Los Angeles, and I was looking for a life partner. And my aunt suggested it would be really cute if I documented that journey. She wanted me to write a blog, and I was like, I don't know if I really want to write a whole blog after a bad date. So I was like, what about a TikTok? And I had a TikTok. I didn't really make TikToks. But I was like, what if I did a TikTok? And I kind of threw it out to some friends. I was like, if I made a TikTok dating series about my dating life, would you guys even watch it? And everybody overwhelmingly said, yes, of course we would watch it. It would be awesome to watch. They think my dating stories are funny. And so it was meant to be lighthearted and fun, and it did not go exactly as I planned.
Yeah. So, how did your content evolve from this lighthearted dating series to stories documenting the harassment and Dinesh Nishirvan and everything else?
Yeah, so I was living in Arlington, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C., and my dating series was going really well. I was rapidly growing a following of mostly women. I think only women were actually watching it. It was meant to connect with women about how difficult dating is. And I started going to some local places that were around my apartment in Arlington on Columbia Pike, which is a little area that has like a few different bars. And I thought, in order to keep myself safe, because it is scary when you're going to dates in places you've never been, I thought it would be safer for me to go to places near my home. It was also easy transportation wise. I went to places I could walk to or easily Uber to. And while I was on a date, a man who was a local that I'd met several times, I didn't know him really well, came in and interrupted one of my dates. And he said, Coco, whatever you do, do not leave this bar with this man. And I was like, well, I wasn't planning on it. It was like early in the night. He's like, no, it's really bad. And these people have some bad intentions for you, and I'll explain it all later. And the guy that I was on a date with, it was a first date. I did know this guy as an acquaintance. I had seen him around a few times. He'd been my bartender before. He ended up getting upset about this situation and getting kind of flustered and leaving. And so this man who had interrupted our date proceeded to tell me about this group chat. It was a local group chat amongst bartenders, restaurant employees, and also just locals who attend or like frequent these bars.
Okay.
There was a Facebook group, and then I guess there was also a side group chat. And I was like, okay, what's going on? And he was like, I'm scared to show it to you because I think it's going to really hurt your feelings, but you need to know what these people are up to. And essentially, these people for months, this thing went on for months. These people had been taking videos without my permission. It was basically just to bully me. It was supposed to be silly to bully me. They were making fun of my clothes. They were making fun of my body. They were saying disgusting things about my body. They were saying some alarming things like we're choosing violence, kind of loose things that could be perceived as a threat. I just didn't like it because this was not with my consent. And one of the bartenders of this local bar had taken a video of me. I had stopped in the bar to look for my friend. I was riding my bicycle because all these bars are close to my home. I was riding my bicycle because I don't drink and drive. And I had popped in to see if my friend was there. My friend was not there. I hopped back on my bike and I rode away. I rode home. It was about 11 o'clock at night. And she had come outside of the bar and taken a video of me and posted it to this group with all these men who had called me a whore and said all these disgusting things. saying, here's Coco. She's on her way, like riding her bike. Look at her clothes. She looks like the Wicked Witch of the West. I was wearing a hat. And they were just all making fun of me. And so basically, I felt like this put my safety in jeopardy. Why are these bartenders alerting this group where I am, where I'm going late at night? Why are they bullying their customers? Like, I'm a paying customer. I've been in there. I wasn't a regular, but I'd been in there several times. Why are these employees and these locals taking videos of people without their permission, posting them in this forum, talking about women in this way, calling them a whore? And so I decided to talk about it on TikTok. The first video I made about it was in tears. I was humiliated. It was really just sickening to me that people would behave this way. I was a bartender for many years. Never would I ever do that to one of my customers, especially not a woman, especially on her way home late at night. I found that behavior vile, and I, in tears, made a TikTok about it. This was 4 years ago. This was 2021. I made a TikTok video about it saying how disgusting I thought the behavior was. And I never said the name of the bar. I never said the people's names in the group. And I was served with an emergency protective order barring me from talking about this on TikTok.
Okay, so can you walk me up to these events with the emergency protective order?
Sure.
I know that there was an issue about personal information being shared without your consent, and credit card information using to obtain your legal identity and that type of stuff. So can you walk me through that whole story?
Sure. So, like, as you know, online, I go by Coco Briscoe. Coco is not my government name. And one of the bartenders had said, call her by this name, which she could have only seen from seeing my credit card. I always hand over my ID and my credit card at the same time. As I said before, I was a bartender for many years, just to make their job easier. I mean, I'm of a certain age. I don't get carded much, but it does happen. And just for convenience, I just hand them both. So my birth date is on there, my full legal name. In order to get an emergency protective order against a person, you have to have their full government name. You have to have their birth date. You have to have their address.
Okay.
This woman, it said address unknown on the protective order. Her boyfriend is an Arlington County police officer.
There we go.
There we go. So this stranger, I did not know this woman's last name. I didn't know this woman at all. I had had one interaction with her ever at the bar. She had served me one drink one time. And the only reason I remembered her is because she was screaming at the owner of the bar behind the bar. They were having an argument. There was nobody in there. I was waiting for a man to join me. I was going to hire him for a woman's meetup group that I used to do. And I was going to have him play music. So this was my first time meeting him ever. This woman is screaming at the owner of the bar. We had one drink and we left. We went somewhere else. That was my only interaction with her. So when I had asked this man who told me about this group chat and showed me all this stuff these bartenders were saying, I was like, who is this woman? I'm not going to say her name. I'll get arrested again. Who is this woman?
Don't want that.
Who is this woman who has been talking about me for months? And they were sharing my social media platforms. They were sharing my TikToks. They were sharing my Facebook. They were sharing my Instagram. They were screenshotting all of their troll accounts of them trolling me online, calling me ugly, calling me fat, calling me a loser, saying that I use men. I'm only going on dates for free meals. I mean, it was like tons of trolling. And I was wondering who is doing all this trolling to me. And I found out when I saw this group chat that it was them. It was them admitting that it was them. And they were doing it as a game. They were like, oh, I see your post. I raise you. Look what I posted, right? So they were doing that. So after I had found out about this group chat, I filed a police report because I felt as a former bartender, this behavior was dangerous, that they were going to maybe possibly get a woman injured. When you have a group of people calling a woman a whore, making fun of her body, posting her location, that feels dangerous. So I made a police report. I spoke with a police officer at Arlington County. They basically told me there's nothing they could do. They said, the police officer I spoke to was Officer Mason at Arlington County. She said she would have a chat with them and that she would get back to me. I was like, well, this is dangerous behavior. I'm never going to go back in there. But you need to be aware of this. Did
you contact the establishment owners of the people involved?
Yes. So I went and I spoke with the owner, who I had always had a good rapport with. He was always very friendly to me. like I said, I wasn't a regular, but he knew who I was. I'd been in there a few times. He'd actually asked me to do one of my meetup groups there because I had come in one time with a group of women. We all spent a lot of money. We all had a lot of fun. So I went to him. I showed him the group chat messages. I was like, this is what your bartender is doing. Like, your employees are making fun of your customers, sharing their social media, trolling them online. This is disgusting behavior. And the bar owner said, well, if you don't like it, then you never have to come back. And I said, okay, I will never come back. Um, and that bartender filed the emergency protective order against me. I had 4 police show up at my house at 4 a.m. with an emergency protective order, which, by the way, are only meant for acts of violence or threats of violence. It was ruled in court by Judge James McHugh that these were invalid and unconstitutional and had no basis. That was said in court by a judge.
So you were arrested just hours after you were served with that EPO, the emergency protective order. So explain to me what happened. Explain to me that day. It seems like the craziest thing in the world.
It is the craziest. It gets crazier if you can believe it. There's so much to this, and I'm sure it's going to make your head spin. So it's very wordy. I'm going to try to like give you the Cliff's Notes version. So basically, she had filed, this police officer's girlfriend had filed the emergency protective order in Fairfax County, where she lives, not in Arlington County. I live in Arlington County. So the first protective order was served to me it was signed by a magistrate in Fairfax County. I obeyed that order. It's a 72-hour emergency protective order, which is like to keep people safe. It's for people who have been threatened, people who have been beaten up. It's not for some bartender because I said her first name on TikTok. I didn't say where she worked. I didn't say her last name because I did not know it. So it was a 72-hour order. I obeyed that order. And then I can't remember the timeline, but shortly after that protective order was up, I came onto TikTok and I said, you guys will never believe I was served an emergency protective order from a woman I do not know. Her boyfriend is a police officer. Here's the bar that has done this to me. I talked to the bar owner. He basically told me to buzz off. I filed a police report. They told me to buzz off. And now this woman's getting emergency protective orders and sending cops to my home at 4 a.m. This is outrageous. I made a TikTok about it. It's still on my page, I'm sure, somewhere. And so I was like, this is crazy. Well, after I made that TikTok and said the name of the bar, I was like, I don't think this bar is safe for women. They don't take women's safety seriously. They didn't take my concerns seriously. I wouldn't go here if I were a woman. If I knew that bartenders were videotaping women in their bar and telling people when they were leaving and where they were going, I would never go to that bar. So I said the name of the bar. Then knock, 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 5 a.m., 2 more police officers. One of those police officers, I believe, was the woman's boyfriend. And the reason I think it was her boyfriend, the reason I think so, and I had made a TikTok about it, I'd have to go back and check the timeline. So before any of these orders were ever served, I was with a group of women. We were in Georgetown in D.C., having lunch and having drinks and just hanging out. And I saw this woman, the one that filed the protective orders, walk by with a man, and she was videotaping. She had her phone out. She was taping. And I was like, I think that's that bartender, the one that keeps posting all these things about me that took the videos. And so I approached her. I called her name out, and she turned around and I said, hey, this is before I had gone to the bar and told them what she had done. I said, I know about your group chat. I know what you guys are doing. That behavior is not safe. I was like, that is illegal. That is stalking behavior when you're posting with all your friends. Because they would tell other people like, oh, I saw Coco walk into this bar today. Or I saw her ride her bike here down the street. Oh, and they would like take photos or whatever. And I was like, it's stalking behavior. It's absolutely disgusting. Knock it off. And I was like, and if you were just recording me, like I think you were, do not tell your creepy friends where I am. Okay. And the reason I think she knew where I was is I used to be stupid about social media because I didn't think anybody cared about my whereabouts. I had posted my location on Instagram. Okay. I had made a post. I think I posted it on Instagram and TikTok. I'm in front of the Georgetown waterfront. I'm in front of the restaurant we were at. It's very obvious. And the man that was with her was her cop boyfriend. And I have a text message of like from this group chat, the screenshot of her saying, Coco accosted me today in front of my police officer boyfriend. And all the people in the group said, oh, I love that for her. Like she doesn't even know who she's messing with. Then we get the protective order, the first one. Then we get the second protective order. So when the second protective order came and these guys were knocking on my door, Now, mind you, I'd been trolled around the clock, nonstop. These people were trolling me nonstop, harassing me. The police come to my door. I was like, you have got to be effing kidding me. This is outrageous. I don't even know how this is allowed to happen. And I was like, what is this order even about? Like, if I've never contacted this woman, I've never contacted her. I've never messaged her on social media. I don't know her. I never knew her last name until these were served. And they were like, well, the magistrate signed off, so you have to obey it. I said, so all this says is I can't make a TikTok, that I can't talk about this woman on TikTok and her bad behavior and what she's doing. Never did I post her address. Never did I post her last name. Nothing like that. And I said, so this is from this person at this bar. They said, yes, I filmed them. I was on TikTok live and they arrested me. That was the violation of my protective order, was posting about it.
All right. So this became and it is a very interesting issue, like First Amendment wise, free speech wise.
Sure.
I know that Professor Eugene Volokh, the UCLA professor and esteemed, the former clerk to Sandra Day O'Connor, he writes about First Amendment issues. He's probably one of the foremost experts, and he took an interest in the case. Now, when this happened, obviously you got yourself a lawyer. What did the lawyers say about this order? Don't talk about this person online. And what do they say about that and the free speech implications for someone who's a content creator, someone who does TikTok?
Right. Don't talk on social media about the people who are talking about you on social media. Like, make that make sense. So these people were posting my location on Facebook, posting videos without my consent on Facebook, doing all this stuff in a group. They were posting about me on social media. So then when I post on my platform that these people are posting about me on social media, I get arrested? Make it make sense, please. Yeah, so my lawyer was like, this is the craziest thing ever. This is obviously a First Amendment violation. I was like, no, duh. Like, I don't know this woman's last name. She doesn't own that first name. I could have been talking about anybody. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, she outed herself by doing this, because she could have just said it wasn't me. And I don't know her. I can't prove it, right? I just have these screenshots that this guy gave me. And he let me like scroll through and read all of this group chat. And it had gone on for a long time. It wasn't created just to attack me. It seemed like that it had been a group chat and they talked about other things. I slowly became the main subject and I became the target of this harassment. So it was just a group of people that thought, oh, there's this TikToker in town. Let's troll her. Let's harass her. Let's make fun of her. She's stupid for wanting to date somebody. Excuse me. And yeah, did that answer your question? Sorry.
I got a couple questions about this now. Mm-hmm. Also, you said that the police officer was the boyfriend. Did you? Obviously, it was ruled invalid, and the court threw it all out. But not until after they said no, you could be held accountable for violating an invalid order. They have it's called the collateral bar rule.
That was all for show. They did that all for show, in my opinion. I'll say in my opinion for legal purposes. That was for show. I believe that was for the press, to put on a show for the press, because the press was there. They wanted the press to bury me, and the press did. The press did me no favors. One of the publications completely lied. They said I had no evidence. I have mountains of evidence. I have thousands of screenshots of this stuff that's been going on for these years. They said I had no evidence against these people, that I was harassing them. I never contacted. The only contact I ever had with the bar after finding out this was going in person, which I had 2 witnesses. I purposefully brought 2 witnesses with me so that they could see what happened. They witnessed the owner screaming in my face, telling me if I felt unsafe to never return. And I said, okay, no problem. I won't return. And sorry, what did you ask? I've had a long day at work. I apologize.
Well, no, I know. It must have been a crazy situation. I'll ask one more thing about the incident and the police officer. Have you filed any type of internal affairs report or any type of situation against that person? Because it sounds like they might have used their office or their status as a police officer to do something they really shouldn't have.
Yeah, I think so. So I cannot prove with absolute certainty that was the boyfriend. I am pretty sure, only because I saw him in person. But when he showed up at my home with a protective order, he was wearing a mask. It was during COVID. He was wearing a mask. When he testified in court that he was monitoring my TikToks and saw that I had posted a video, because if she filed a protective order against me, she filed a protective order, then that means she can't cyber stalk me. She can't contact me on social media. But the first protective order, when she filed the second one, she says that I was waving it around and you could see her name on the protective order. So was she cyber stalking me? Did she violate the protective order? Why am I being illegally surveillanced by the Arlington County Police Department when I'm not being accused of a crime? This is just
The only person who would do something like that as an officer would be an acquaintance, if not a romantic acquaintance, still an acquaintance. And I think that's enough for an internal affairs investigation, for using a friend or a family member or an acquaintance or somebody using your office improperly. That's what it sounds like to me. But you said you never filed anything with them.
I did. I spoke with internal affairs, and they were like, they just like gave me the runaround. They did not give me any sort of formal explanation. There was also another police officer involved. When I began getting harassed even more with this situation, there were all these false allegations that I had said all kinds of things to this cop, which did not happen. And they were posting pictures of him, and he was a black man. They were saying that I called him racial slurs, which absolutely did not happen under any circumstance. This was all in the investigation. I had opened up an investigation later with Arlington County Police because this cop's girlfriend continued to harass me. She continued to recruit people online, which I believe Danesh was one of those people. She has multiple people that are all Danesh's people recruiting, coming after me, harassing my job, filing more. I had 2 more warrants for my arrest, by the way.
So let's get into all that.
Mm-hmm.
The public reaction, the online fallout. So have your followers respond to your arrest, and number one, and then number two, the other response you received. Did you receive online threats? Did you receive hate? And what did you receive from, or did you receive support from other creators? What was the response from your followers, or what were the response from creators?
I received absolutely zero response or support from other creators. Now, my First Amendment rights are being violated. I'm being arrested for making TikToks, and you would think that all the big creators would have my back and be fighting for me. Nobody really spoke up for me. There were a few like smaller creators that did make videos. They were endlessly harassed. I have a ton of screenshots of these people writing to me saying, I made a video in support of you and I've been endlessly harassed. Here are the messages that I'm being sent. This group did not allow really anybody to support me. And then the bigger creators that I thought would help out, like Danesh, who's supposed to be this social justice guy, instead came for me. So the press put a target on my back. The press posted my address. The local newspaper posted my home address. Wow. And then my apartment building kept getting calls saying that I was doing drugs in my apartment, that I was having parties I live alone. I'm a single woman. I live alone. One of the complaints I got when I was out of town, I was visiting a family member, and I get a call from my apartment complex saying, we keep getting complaints that you're smoking marijuana in your apartment and that you're having parties. I was like, I'm not even in town. They were like, well, maybe somebody's having a party in your apartment. I said, please send somebody to go look. Nobody has a key to my apartment but me. There's nobody there. I promise you, but this kept happening. I ended up breaking my lease, and I filed paperwork saying that I was being stalked and harassed, and they let me out of my lease.
Okay. And what about your accounts, your Instagram and your TikTok? Were your videos attacked? Were they taken down? Were they? I know that you said there were lots of comments put on there, a lot of negative comments. Tell me what happened to your social media presence after this.
I was being harassed around the clock, especially after these newspaper articles came out. So I was being trolled incessantly by tons of people. I have lots of screenshots from the trolling. Every time I try to explain what was happening, my videos were being flagged for bullying and harassment. And there was no bullying and no harassment and no doxing. TikTok kept taking my videos down because they were just being constantly reported. All my videos were being reported. I even went through the Washington Post article and went point by point of how this journalist just got it wrong, because I had evidence to back these things up. And those videos immediately flagged, constantly coming down. I was on an account warning for about 6 months. Every video that I made was getting flagged. I couldn't even defend myself. Yeah. So Meanwhile, all these
Dinesh has admitted he actually admitted as recently as a few days ago that he does that. He did with my videos. He actually said it. He says, "Oh, I report his stuff as child pornography, and it gets taken down right away." So he kind of there are people like him that gloat about that. You know, misusing a system, the community standard system that's supposed to protect people. So you know, I can understand that, but you received it en masse. You received it everywhere for everything on every platform all at once, right?
constantly. And then all these different women were writing to me saying that I was a violent alcoholic and those bartenders had a right to do what they did because I was violent and causing a scene. Never have I ever, every single time I was ever in any of these places, I thought everything was fine. Like I was always on dates, so I always had a witness with me. If I ever had to go to court for this, many people would probably vouch for me and say, no, we sat, we had dinner, we had a couple of drinks. That was it. Like I said, I had a good rapport with these bar owners and the bartenders. I've never had any feud with these people. The newspapers were like, she had a feud with bartenders. Where was this fight? Where was this feud? It was literally me finding out about the group chat, talking about it on TikTok, getting arrested, and then getting endlessly harassed. And the harassment still continues. It's been 4 years. This happened in 2021. All these random women were writing me in my DMs, saying crazy things to me. I'd block them and then they'd come back with another account and be like, oh, you're going to block me? Well, I'll just keep coming back. And I'm like, that's literally cyber stalking. Like if somebody blocks you, they're blocking you. They don't want contact with you. But people felt like I had to hear them, that I had to be like, I deserved to be harassed by them. And so not only did the newspaper dox my address, but other people kept posting my address. Even when I moved, they posted the city that I moved to. They never doxed that address, thankfully. They got me fired from my job. So one of the women in this group chat, the Arlington group chat with all of the bartenders and the locals, I had repeatedly asked this woman to stop contacting me. She kept contacting me and over Instagram. And I quickly realized who she was. I was like, oh, you're this person from the group chat. And she was like, nobody has done anything to you. You weren't supposed to see any of this. Like, you're not being harassed, blah, 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 blah. And I said, please stay away from me. Please never contact me again.
You're not supposed to see what people are saying about you online. Therefore, it's not harassment. That's their argument.
That's their argument, is that a lot of it was in this like private group chat that had like 50 something people in it. But it was like a local group chat, but they're
publishing things about you to people in a chat, numerous people, dozens of people that in your community, and that's not supposed to be defamatory or harmful to your reputation. It's not supposed to be something that's harassing to you.
Right.
These people, some of them are out of control. That's actually the same argument that Dinesh's lawyer, Nick Chiappetta, made the other day in court, that the statements on Dinesh's page were only for Dinesh's followers. So someone a lawyer that he called, a black civil rights lawyer that he called a racist or a low-class racist, shouldn't have been offended because it was on Dinesh's page. You know, it's the same type of argument that they make. It's an abuser argument to say, we can abuse you freely and you have nothing to say about it. It's really a sad thing.
Right. Again, they can post about me on social media, but the minute I talk about the harassment, I get arrested. I'm doing something illegal all of a sudden.
Let's focus in on Dinesh. You know, so
okay.
we're talking tap dancing around him for a half hour. Let's get to the nitty gritty. Dinesh publicly accused you of fabricating all this harassment. So what's your response to that? What's your response to say that everything you're saying is fabrication, that the harassment never occurred? And talk to me about him. How do you know him? Did you ever reach out to him directly? Did he ever attempt to verify the statements that you fabricated harassment? Talk to me about this.
Right. First and foremost, I have the screenshots of this group chat and multiple witnesses to it. So I can actually verify that it's all true. Also, I very publicly got arrested. It's in the newspapers. It's in the Washington Post. It's all verifiable, right? I didn't make this up. I also was fired from my job. But let me back up. So before I was fired from my job is when Danesh came into the picture. So I knew who he was because he's one of the big call out creators. I knew who he was. I did not follow him. I didn't really know. I knew what he did on TikTok, but I didn't really know a lot about him. I just knew, oh, he's a big creator on TikTok. So one day I'm just in my kitchen and a lot of people start leaving comments in my comment section and they're like, "Oh, did you see what Danesh said about you? Did you see?" And it was like ping 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 ping. And I was like, "Why is this guy talking about me? Like, isn't this the guy that goes after racists? Like that's what I knew him for. Like, isn't he the guy that like goes after these people that like throw slushies in people's face or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
why is he coming after me? Now, this was like shortly after my big public arrest and stuff. And I was like, and they were like, he's calling you a liar and a paranoid schizophrenic. And I was like, what? Like, I've never reached out to him, never. He was tagged in a bunch of my videos. So because they supposedly help people and help people get justice, a bunch of people were like, they were tagging him and multiple other creators like Tizzy Ent and Aunt Karen, like, please help this girl, please help this girl. Like, her rights are being violated. She's being harassed constantly. There was an entire page that was like this defamatory page about me that claimed that they were Arlington County police officers. On this page, they said disgusting things about me. They said that my dog should be taken away from me, that I should be fired from my job. Like, it was like this constant harassment.
So let me just make something clear. He said that you were mentally ill, right? But he never contacted you.
No,
Never called you. And there
no.
are no public documents like an expert witness report in a litigation or anything else that says that you're mentally ill or mentally damaged in any way, right? There's nothing like that out there, right?
No, not at all.
You're not mentally ill, right?
I am not mentally ill. No.
Okay, but he called you mentally ill.
He said that I was. So what
You
happened?
think that could have been projection?
It could be. It could be. I do not know him personally. Again, at this point, I had never reached out to him. He had just been tagged in my videos a bunch. I was shocked he even knew who I was. And so when people were leaving these comments, because I was getting trolled so much, I didn't believe it. I was like, that guy's not talking about me. These people are just trolling me. They're just trying to scare me. They're always trying to scare me. And then Courtney Kotzian reached out to me.
Yeah. Omaha Oracle.
Omaha Oracle. So I should have asked her permission to discuss this. I didn't.
I spoke to Courtney actually yesterday. We met for the first time at the Danesh court hearing. So yeah, go ahead. I'm actually going to talk to her as well in connection with the story. So
okay, I just didn't want to like bring her into something if she didn't want to be.
For my conversation with her, she's all on board and telling me the full truth of the Danesh story. So I'll get her comments as well.
Right. So I had no idea who Omaha Oracle was. I had never seen her. She had never been on my For You page. I had no clue who she was when she reached out to me. And she reached out to me and she was like, basically that I should be worried because this guy does some scary stuff. And she sent me the video. I have it somewhere on my phone. I have thousands of files. But she sent me the video. And in the video, he was talking about her. And he was saying she was stalking herself. She was doxing herself. And he said, and there's another creator who's doing this on this app too. I'm not going to say her name. And then somebody says it because I think these people have asked Danesh to come after me, these people that were doing all this in Arlington. And he said, oh, since somebody guessed it, yeah, it's Coco Briscoe. Yeah. I don't know if he said my last name. Yeah, it's Coco, like the dating DC girl or something like that. I have the video somewhere. I don't want to misquote. And he said, yeah, something about like, this is paranoid schizophrenia. He's not a psychologist, but basically accusing the two of us of harassing ourselves, trolling ourselves. And I was just like, who on earth would want this kind of attention? All I ever wanted was literally to find a life partner, and I was documenting it so women could see that. I was building community. I was having fun on TikTok before all this stuff happened. My series was supposed to be lighthearted. I never thought I would get a big following. But after he did this publicly, then the harassment really started. And these people started digging into me. And the troll accounts, it was like they quadrupled every day. And
were you getting a day? The negative messages.
Oh my God. It was 24/7. It was constantly. I was constantly blocking people that were like, you're a psychopath. You need to take your meds. Coco's made up the whole story. She's lying about the whole thing. They were harassing any supporters in my comments. They would harass them and be like, she's a liar. Why do you believe this liar? Why do you believe this psychopath? And it was around the clock. I had to almost
How
monitor
many?
my
Just for a metric for the viewers. How many a day are we talking? Are we talking 100? We talking 500? What are we talking?
anywhere between 100 and 500 probably.
Yeah, so that's a large number. You're getting multiple. You're getting dozens every hour during the day, right?
Constantly. Yeah. And it's just people bashing me as if I haven't been traumatized enough, as if I wasn't stripped from my home and thrown in a jail cell for exercising my freedom of speech. Now I have been demonized, and now I'm this crazy person who just made up this story about these random bartenders just to harass them. And it was crazy. And it led me getting fired from my job. So the one woman in the group who I'd never met, the one I asked to leave me alone and stop contacting me, contacted me several months later and said that she got a job working next door to me under the same management. The two places were owned by the same owner. I immediately went to my owner and I said, I'm terrified of this woman. She's a part of this like gang stalking group. I mean, I don't know what else to call it. Gang stalking, terrorism. I don't know what targeted harassment, whatever it is. She's a part of this group and I don't want her anywhere in this building while I'm here. I had my boss walk me out to my car every single night. I was literally terrified because I don't know this woman. I've never met this woman in person. I had made TikTok videos talking about it. Again, not doxing her at all because I don't know where she lives. I didn't know her last name. And they had posted where I was working online. These people rang the phone off the hook nonstop for days on end at the job I was working at. My boss pulled me aside. He was very upset, not with me. He was like, you're a great employee. We love you here. We have to run a business. These people will not stop calling. They've been calling around the clock nonstop, telling us to fire you, making complaints. I honestly, I don't even know what they were saying at this point. I was fired. So now I have to move out of my apartment because my address has been doxxed. I have lost my job. I'm a single woman who lives alone. What the hell am I supposed to do? Now there's all these newspaper articles out here about me saying I'm harassing people from making TikToks and getting arrested. I felt like my life was over. And I was like, okay, that's it. I am going to take all my videos down regarding the incident. I'm going to stay off of TikTok. I'm going to move out of this city. I moved 45 minutes away to a completely different county, took all my videos down. And I was like, this is going to make it stop. I will never say another word about it. It amped up even more, if you can believe it. And it was nonstop.
And you're not the only person. There are a lot of people that this happened to directly from Danesh. One of the things that we've seen, and we talked to several. One of them I talked to was Sydney McDaniel. The same type of thing. She's a West Virginia hairdresser. And the owner of the salon that she worked at was, she was a maid of honor at the wedding, and they were very close. They went to high school together. And when they first started, the owner said, "Oh, we're behind you. We'll protect you. Everything else." Within a day, he's like, "We got to let you go because the onslaught, at the business, it makes it impossible for somebody to run a business." And I've written a bit about Danesh being a digital race hustler. To that extent, he does that, and in her case, there was a false racism claim, but it was any type of harassment, any type of a situation where they can try to vilify somebody. They do that almost like the race hustlers of old used to do, and they would say, "Your company is racist, and unless you pay us $100,000 to come give sensitivity trainings, we're going to tell the world." And so it's the same type of situation. It's a form of extortion. From what I've seen and what we've researched, but also there's an AI component to it too. And did you realize when it was happening that the people that were potentially calling you, that were texting you, that were calling the place where you worked, that were messaging you on social media, that they were genuine people, or were they sock puppet accounts, or were they AI generated messages, or were they a combination of both? Did you ever had any that suspect that in any way, that it couldn't be this many people that were on a sustained level doing this?
Yes. So to answer your question, I think it was about half and half in the beginning. I think there were enough real people, and I know this because people started making videos about me. Okay. So he has this following. They call them Daneland. It's like his loyal followers. So this is beyond Danesh, right? This is he is setting the standard of this behavior is okay, and all the people that follow him, they then form all of these little groups and they do the same thing to people, right? And so after he said what he said, all of these creators started making videos. They're like, well, Danesh said she made it up and she's lying, so now we're going to come after her. So now they're sort of becoming Danesh. There was one woman who lives in Pennsylvania who made hundreds of videos about me. Hundreds. I mean, it was every day. She was like, Coco Briscoe, making all these crazy videos. The first time I ever saw her, she came on my For You page and she said she was my lawyer. She said that I reached out to her for legal advice and that I was worried that I was going to be sued because I made up the whole story and I'm actually stalking myself. And so I reached out to her because she's a lawyer. This woman is not a lawyer. She is she works on a construction site in Pennsylvania. I won't tell you how I know that, but she also posts clues on her TikTok.
Do you know who Feud Junkie is?
I do know who I know who that is. I think he reached out to me one time years ago.
I spoke to Feud Junkie about this, and his theory is that Danesh cultivates mentally ill people. Like in many places, you have mentally ill people who are actually in institutions, but they still have access to cell phones and they still have social media, and they spend the time all day and all night because there's no really other entertainment. Living in this vicarious Danesh world, where you have these obsessive people who are mentally ill that are in part doing Danesh's bidding. They see Danesh as some type of person. So that's one of his theories that and not just in the United States, all over the world, people in the UK, people in the English speaking world, Australia and other places. That's one of his theories, that he's cultivating mentally ill people to amp up things, who have numerous accounts, which are the sock puppet accounts, where they'll have one account that it could be you, but then there'll be 10, 15, 20 other accounts, and they'll be commenting there. There's also what the belief is that there are AI accounts. So you can run those sock puppets with an AI script, and that can generate with a couple of keystrokes, hundreds of messages, and they can go off in rapid fire in succession. It fit the pattern, what you're talking about, the pattern that many others have been talking about, that when Danesh launches into you, he launches his entire quote unquote Daneland army into almost like a media campaign, but it's a harassment campaign. That's really what it is. So talk to me now about your life, your safety, your reputation, and your health. Those are very important issues. Even to today, where did we go from the day that you had Danesh and his people bear down on you until today? What effect has that had on those areas with you?
Yeah, so I think it was 2022 that I had moved out of the city of Arlington after being fired from my job and breaking my lease. And I moved in with a friend. I just rented a room from a friend. Quickly after I moved in with this friend, his job was then harassed. So what happens is, because they have all these forums, they use like Discord and Reddit, and because there were all these harassment pages that was like Coco Briscoe is lying, Coco Briscoe endangers women, Coco Briscoe, like there were all these harassment pages. So anybody who didn't like me would then give these people information about me. So this guy that I moved in with, who was a friend of mine, his ex-girlfriend, I guess, was mad that I was renting a room. He had a 5-bedroom house. I rented a room downstairs. He lived upstairs. Was mad that I had moved in with him, and basically told this group who he is and where he works. He was put under investigation at his job for 2 weeks. I'm not going to say what he did, and I'm not going to involve him in this, but basically he was under investigation at his job. And he has nothing to do with this. He doesn't know any of these people involved. He has never made any statements about any of these people, and this poor guy's job's being harassed because the ex-girlfriend is jealous that I moved in. These people try to get whatever information that they can on me. So my mental health was very bad. I was in a very, very bad place mentally, because to walk you through my day-to-day life, I now am looking for a job. And in these job interviews, I have to explain why when you Google my name, it says that I'm a stalker and a harasser and a psychopath. And this made national news that I got arrested for having a feud with bartenders and violating a restraining order. It makes me sound like a psychopath
Yeah.
violating a restraining order because I posted the cops being at my house, right? Now I'm violating a restraining order. I'm having feuds with bartenders. I'm this maniac. All these creators, when you look up my name on TikTok, you have all these creators being like, Coco Briscoe is an abuser. She's a psychopath. All she does is harass people. They had the lies that they made up were that I found this woman's ex-boyfriend and had him beat her up. These were in police reports, by the way. This is psychotic. Another woman said that I found her stalker and platformed her stalker on my platform, that I'm terrorizing these people's children, that I'm a racist, that all of that, it's crazy. They said that I try to run someone over with my car, that I attacked a disabled person. These are real people making videos, making these allegations. And now I'm trying to look for a job. And I have to explain these things in job interviews. And I'm having a very hard time getting a job. We're in a global pandemic, okay? Starting to come out of one, but I had been out of work because of that before all of this, right? So I used up my savings. I barely have any savings. I can barely get a job. I'm being terrorized around the clock. My landlord's job is being harassed. My family's address got doxxed. My aunt and uncle's address, they said the racist Coco Briscoe is at this address and there's a $50,000 bounty on her head. They posted this publicly on TikTok. There were children in the home. My uncle's grandkids were in the home at that time. I'm crying. I'm calling the police. I'm hysterical. There's a stupid TikTok video about it where I'm having a panic attack. I don't know what to do. I'm begging the internet for help. I'm on the internet being like, somebody help me. Somebody make this stop. I thought I was going to crack. I thought I was going to go into a state of actual psychosis because the police are not taking me seriously. The cops shows up 4 hours later. 4 hours later, the cop shows up and he doesn't take a report, refuses to take a report. He's like, well, there's nothing we can do about this. I'm like, take a report. Write a report. He won't take a report. He's like, we're really busy and we're understaffed. Doesn't take a report. So I've now moved out of the city where I know I even have friends, right? I don't have any friends in this new city. No job, no money. I'm being terrorized around the clock. They're constantly now posting my new location. I was in the city of Woodbridge. They're like, Coco Briscoe lives in Woodbridge now. She's looking for a job doing this career. Like, it is non-freaking stop. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. My life is over. These people are never going to stop. I took the videos down. I took them down. I was like, I'll never speak about this again. Then 2 police show up at my house with 2 warrants for my arrest for harassment by computer. Do you know what harassment by computer is in the state of Virginia, Richard?
What is harassment by computer?
It's for lewd, lascivious, and obscene behavior of a sexual nature. That's what it's for.
So people put in false reports about you.
More false reports. Yeah. More false reports from 2 people I have never met. This is from the woman who terrorized my job and got me fired. Now has filed emergency protective orders again against me and warrants for my arrest. Never contacted this woman. Never. I made videos talking about what was happening to me, but I didn't know this woman's address. I didn't know anything else about this woman. I'm just like, these are the people that are doing this to me. Somebody help me. I was begging for mercy. I was begging for help. I was calling every single attorney in the state of Virginia. And they're like, we don't really know what to do about this. A defamation case is going to cost you $50,000, $100,000 possibly. Nobody's helping me. The police
It's cost Ralph Garamone and Jennifer Couture, about 10 times that already. So it's out of control. I do want to make the comment that for Danesh, his quote unquote accountability videos, he claims that he gets people justice. But the core of equal justice under the law is that there's no discrimination by gender, by race, by national origin, by sexual orientation. And yet it appears to me that, especially with you and with others, like Jennifer Couture, like with Sidney McDaniel, and with others, that he tends to go after women, and in that case, white women, in an inordinate number than he does anyone else. And so for someone who claims to be a justice warrior, I think his idea of justice may be a bit skewed. Do you have any views on that?
I don't know much about this guy. For the amount of damage he's done to my life, I don't know a lot about him. I don't watch his content. I don't see how any of this is justice. no, certainly nothing that has happened to me is. If he was fighting for justice, he would be fighting for freedom of speech, which apparently, according to this group, I shouldn't have. They're allowed to have. I'm not allowed to tell my side of the story. Um, you know, he sent me, and I can send you the screenshots, but I was being harassed on a live on TikTok by a group of people. I'm not going to mention their names. I don't personally know these people, but they pulled me into a live on TikTok and were basically bullying me as a group, falsely accusing me of all the stuff that this group has falsely accused me of. And they brought his name up in it, and I was like, well, Danesh apologized to me. So we haven't brought this up yet. At one point, he messaged me on Instagram. This was this was after he had made his public statement that I possibly have paranoid schizophrenia and that I made this whole thing up and that I'm harassing myself. He sent me a DM and he said, you can post this if you want. But I'm sorry. I know that sometimes when I say things, people get harassed. I'll send it to you. I haven't read it in a while. And
So he admitted to you that he knew that the effect of his statement to his millions of followers was that they would get riled up and do things. He made that admission to you in a direct message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he said sorry, and I made a video in tears about it because I was being terrorized around the clock. My account was on a warning. I was almost about to lose my account, which was like my only community at this time. And I made a TikTok and I'm like, he apologized, but this damage is done, right? And then fast forward to whatever it was, 6 or 8 months later, that these people have me in this live and they bring up his name and they're like, he even said you were a liar. He said you made it all up. And I was like, he actually apologized to me for this. And then he immediately messages me while I'm on that live, and I'll send you that too. And he basically says, I didn't apologize to you because I was wrong. I was sorry that I didn't look into it, but you are, I think he said I'm a scammer, a grifter, something like that I'm an abuser and all I do is abuse people, that I'm bad for people of color. And then he sent me the middle finger emoji.
So at first he said that he was sorry, but he wouldn't publicly do it on his page to his millions of followers. He said it to you, and he said, well, you could say that I said that I was sorry. And then when you said that he was sorry in a public forum, he came and he said, well, I'm not really sorry. You're still an evil person. And maybe I wasn't right about everything, but I was right enough to say that you're a bad person. That's a fair representation.
Pretty much. Yeah. And then he accused me of stalking and harassing him. I don't follow this man. I can't stalk him. I do not know where he lives. I actually did not know his last name until I started reading these articles that you wrote. I don't know anything about this man. I've never contacted him. I'm not harassing him. But yeah, he said I'm his stalker and I'm harassing him. And he said you kept demanding public apologies. I never demanded a public apology from him. I never demanded anything from him, ever. At one point before his apology, I had made a couple of videos when his followers were terrorizing my page. I had made a couple of videos. After he apologized, I took those videos down. I made them all private. I never reposted them. I think the Victims of Danesh page or somebody else was reposting them because they had screen recorded them, but I took them down off my page. I'm not somebody who wants to be in feuds with anybody on TikTok. I do not want to be in a public feud with anybody. I do not want any of this drama. I've somehow ended up in a lot of this drama, and I haven't been a perfect person either in the way that I have handled my platform. I know that. I think we're all constantly learning how we are affecting people and what we're saying actually carries a lot of weight when we have a following. But yeah, I was blown away at his message. I'm like, how dare this guy say I'm stalking and harassing him and demanding? Nowhere did I ever demand a public apology from him. Nowhere did I ever contact him. And I replied to him and I was like, look, these people continue to ask you to harass me and I have been harassed enough. I can send you the screenshot of what I replied, and he didn't reply to me. And then he sent the screenshots of what he said to this group of women that still to this day continue to terrorize me. And they posted it up, and they were like, "Oh, see, this is what Danesh said to Coco," and these women have just nonstop terrorized my life.
On that point, Coco, I have two questions on that point. One,
Hmm.
when this started happening, this cancel culture, this mob coming after you, the digital mob. What support structures were there for you? What help did you have? Number one, from any source, be it from the social media, in real life, anywhere else. And then number two, when you think about this, do you think that Dinesh has the power to call off his dogs, to go out on social media as publicly as he denounced somebody, you or somebody else, to publicly say, just let's not attack Coco anymore? And do you think that would be an effective way to stop the harassment?
No, I think once you open that floodgate, it's opened. Okay. And as
Not
far
even
as
not even Dinesh going out there saying to his 2.5 million followers now, let's not attack Coco. You think that wouldn't have any effect? That wouldn't stop any of the ongoing harassment?
Well, I'll just say I think it's a moot point. I don't think that he's ever going to do that, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't think that's a thing that he's capable of. And as far as support, I had none, right? The press was not on my side or helping the matter. The press made it 10 times worse. The police would not help me or give me a protective order or a warrant for anyone's arrest, and yet they're giving them to these people who are doing the terrorizing because they have connections with the police, right? The police are on my side. Even TikTok wasn't on my side, right? I was like, surely some of these big creators who have the influence to say, hey, what's happening to this girl is wrong. What's happening to her, losing her job, losing her home, being terrorized nonstop around the clock. This is wrong and we need to stop it. Nobody stood up for me. And these creators are always talking about like freedom of speech, freedom of speech. You don't care because as far as I know, I'm the only TikTok creator that's ever been arrested for TikToks, especially ones that are still on my page. I was never asked to remove these. I wasn't asked to remove my TikToks by the people that filed these warrants. I wasn't asked by a prosecutor. I wasn't asked by police. No one has ever asked me to remove my videos. And it's because it's not about the videos. This has always been about targeted harassment. And
Yeah.
as far as cancel culture, this is not cancel culture. This is so far surpassed cancel culture. This is domestic terrorism. When a group, a mob targets one individual, I was one person who spoke out and said, I don't think that these bars are safe for women because their employees are engaging in behavior that as a bartender, I would never engage in because I consider it to be unsafe. I said, I don't think these businesses are safe for women. This is happening to me. And my life, 4 years of my life gets destroyed. 4 years of my life of being falsely accused of crimes, having my family terrorized. At one point, my family was like, please just get off of the internet because they're posting our addresses with a $50,000 bounty on your head. I'm calling the FBI. The FBI is like, well, they didn't say what the bounty was for. The police are doing nothing. I had a man follow me in 2022 on Halloween and try and run me off the road. I made a 911 call about this. The police, I had the guy's license plate number. The police wouldn't even they wouldn't even run the license plate. Now, is this associated with this situation? I don't know, but I'm being terrorized. Now a crazy man's trying to run me off the road. You won't run the license plate. They said, oh, it's probably just a random road rage situation. So I'm like, every time I go to the police for help, no support whatsoever. And how do you get out of this mob? It's still happening to me to this day, right? My Google search is a nightmare, right? I'm a stalker. I'm a harasser. There's a woman, one of Danesh's friends, who constantly makes TikToks saying I've stalked and harassed all these women. I've endangered all these women. I'm terrorizing people. And never have I ever contacted a single one of these people, nor have I trolled them, nor have I doxed them. They've said that I have done all the very things that these people have done to me. They have falsely accused me of. And it's almost like their police reports read as confessions. Their troll pages read as confessions. Every single thing that they're like, Coco Briscoe did this is the exact thing that they actually did to me. And I am 4 years in this mess. No, there is no support. I have called all of these organizations that help with cyberbullying. They're for children. They're like, oh, we only deal with this for children. Nobody will support me and nobody will help me. And at one point in 2022, I was like, I'm never going to have a normal life again if this doesn't stop. I'm never going to get out of this. I, at one point, thought about taking my own life. Thankfully, I am of sound mind and I am a strong person. Look what happened to this guy in Texas. Um, this is dangerous stuff. This is not bullying. This isn't cancel culture. Cancel culture is like, ooh, we don't like this celebrity because they did something really bad and now we're not going to put them in movies for a while. This is targeting real. I'm not just a TikTok creator. I have a 9 to 5 job. I don't support myself with social media, right? I'm not an influencer. I'm not somebody with millions of followers. I'm somebody with a platform. It's not a big one, right? I have a platform, but who doesn't these days, right? I have to support myself and work. And when these people will not allow me to make money, when I have sponsored posts, they harass the companies that send me free stuff. They've told me that they're trying to contact TikTok Shop to tell them I can't sell on TikTok Shop. They send these newspaper articles to every job I've ever had. When I post restaurant content, because I'm a foodie, sometimes I'll like give free marketing and advertising to businesses. I do not ask anything for free. I do not ask to be paid for these videos. I just do it as a hobby because I like promoting places that I like. They will send the newspaper articles to these businesses after I leave. I spoke in a fishbowl discussion in Washington, D.C. about mental health and social media, where I got an opportunity to sit on a panel and speak. I was not a hired speaker. It was a fishbowl discussion. Everybody who wanted to get up and speak was allowed to. They contacted the panelists. I stupidly posted about it after the event was over. I think it was the next day or 2 days later. I didn't realize the event was still up on Eventbrite. They found the event. They contacted the panelists. They sent them the newspaper articles. They told them I'm a stalker and a harasser. I'm the bully. I can't live a normal life. They will find out every single thing about me from anybody who knows me. They will infiltrate every single aspect of my life. And this is just something I have to live with now, Richard. This is just what my life is now.
One of the things that I'm learning more and more is the medical effects of the harassment, and it's traumatic brain injury. The brain scans are showing more and more that victims of this type of harassment have the same physiological and neurological markers as someone that's been through a windshield in a car accident on their brain, or someone that's been at war and shell shocked, or someone that's been raped. That's the level of harm that we're seeing. Yes. And it sounds like everything you're talking about it's almost. And you talked about Aaron Delator from Texas, the high school coach, who basically there were false allegations that Danesh peddled, and those drove him over the brink. He said you considered suicide. There are many others that have talked about this and said they did, and Aaron, unfortunately went through with it. But it's almost as if these people are seeking social death. They're looking to kill you socially and then leave nothing else, and so that you waste away and you're a discarded person in the world, or in their sick world. But I have just a couple more questions and then we'll conclude. There are two people I want to ask to you about. If you had a chance to get in a room with them and ask them and tell them what happened and how you feel, what would you say to them? The first one is the judge who signed the initial EPO that started the whole cascade. And the second one is, of course, Danesh Noshirvan. So what would you say to those people?
Well, to the magistrate, and I've been kind of making a big fuss over here in the magistrate's offices in Virginia. I've spoken to a lot of people here, and to him, I would say what he did was absolutely irresponsible. Emergency protective orders are meant, again, for acts of violence or threats of violence, which there was no evidence of, nor did this person state that I ever threatened them. This magistrate did something incredibly irresponsible. It was completely against my First Amendment rights. I believe that magistrate knew exactly what he was doing. I personally believe, again, for legal reasons, that this was a favor to maybe a cop friend. I think they pulled some shady stuff, thinking that they could get me to stop talking about what these people were doing as a favor to this cop, perhaps. So yeah, I would say what he did is it's un-American. I mean, I have the right to freedom of speech. My family members fought in foreign wars so that I have a right to freedom of speech, and that is repeatedly taken away from me. Because I am afraid that if I speak out and actually show all the evidence, because if you actually saw the evidence of what I have been through and actually talk to these witnesses, my family, my friends, of how much this destroyed my life and just put me in shambles for years, I'm just now starting to feel like I'm becoming a stronger person. Thankfully, I have a good job and my boss believes in me and she knows everything. We've talked about it a lot, and Yeah, but what these magistrates are doing here in Virginia is it's unlawful. It's unconstitutional and it's crazy. And to Danish, I think he doesn't. Well, I was going to say he doesn't realize how much power he wields, but I do think he does. And I can't really speak on this man. All I know is that his words have destroyed my life, and he has set this precedent to all these other little groups that form online that this behavior is okay, that calling people's jobs that you have never met in your life just because somebody makes a false allegation against them, that you have a right to call their job. You have a right to terrorize their families and their landlords. Like I think these people actually do believe in some weird way that they're fighting for some kind of justice, that they're fighting the bully, right? Like that's what they always say, that I'm the bully. I'm harassing all these people when they've never shown one shred of evidence of me ever bullying anybody, because I do not do it, right? There's some part, I think, that they think that they're doing the right thing, but I think that there's something beyond it. I think it gives them a sense of control. I think they want to control people's lives. They want to control the narrative of who people are. They want to destroy people's platforms. I think that they want people to unalive themselves. I think that knowing that they have that power to do that much destruction in someone's life, and someone takes their own life, they can have that sense of power and then claim that they're innocent. Well, they chose to take their own life. That was their choice. Forget about how they terrorized this person, right? That person chose. They must be weak. It's not my fault that they're weak, but somehow that gives them a sense of power. Does that make sense?
Yeah, given your dealings with Danesh, your communications, do you believe him to be a narcissist?
Yes. I mean, his response to me was completely unwarranted and full of lies. Like, he had no basis for saying anything that he said, saying that I'm stalking myself, saying that I'm, suggesting that I'm mentally ill. He doesn't know me. He's never looked into my case. If anybody's mentally ill, these people filing false police reports, accusing a TikToker that they've never met of crimes just so that they can laugh about it online, like that's mental illness, in my opinion. Right. But then accusing me of being an abuser and all the things he said in that message, I'm like, I would never speak to somebody like that ever, especially if I didn't know any of those things to be true. Like, who is he to just hurl all these insults at a stranger? It's weird. And saying that I'm his stalker, this is what these people do. They stalk and they harass and they terrorize. And then they say that that's what the person's doing to them.
Well, that's a very basic narcissistic trait in psychology called DARVO.
DARVO, yep.
Deny, accuse, reverse victim, and offender. And it's almost a form of projection as well, where the actual person who's the perpetrator casts themselves as the victim and then says that the actual victim is doing everything that they're actually doing to the real victim. And I think that your story and your case illustrates that very well. The claims of mental illness, the claims of stalking, the claims this and that. I think that we can, the finger that Danesh points at you. They say when you point a finger, you have a bunch pointing right back at you. I think that
right.
You can look right back at Danesh at the allegations he made to see who the real person with the problem is. So we've gone for a bit. So if there's anything else you want to say, feel free.
Well, I just think this behavior it should not be normalized, and it needs to be criminalized, and we have to get the laws changed because there are no laws in place. Like I said, harassment by computer, the charge here is for sex crimes essentially, which is insane because nowhere in any of these false police reports did anyone say that I did anything sexual. So why that magistrate would sign off on that is insane to me. But abusing the legal system to terrorize a person you've never met, just to send cops to someone's house. These people have gone from police department to police department, filing all these protective orders and warrants for my arrest so that they can go public and play the victim just for funsies. Like, I don't know why someone would do this to a complete stranger. And like, there's something about this kind of behavior where you're completely dehumanized, right? They take all of the humanity away from you. They only see you as one action or one allegation, right? So-and-so said that Coco Briscoe did this. Now she's no longer a human. She's that one allegation. And now we have to destroy everything about her and rip her of her humanity. And I'm not the only one. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm a victim and this is happening to tons of social media creators. It's happening to tons of regular people. And, calling this journalism. These TikTok creators, oh, we're just informing people. No, you're creating a mob to attack and destroy human beings and their lives. And they're trying to play God, right? Like they are karma. That's what they think. Like it's up to us to punish this person. We're not going to let the law punish them. Never mind my charges were all dismissed, all nolle prosequi, which means there's not even a hearing, completely thrown out of court. Not even there. I didn't have to go in front of an actual judge other than for the prosecutor to say, we're not pursuing this. There's nothing to pursue. There's no evidence again. But they don't care about the truth. Nobody cares that all these charges that were falsely brought against me were all dismissed. They still continue the narrative. Coco Briscoe is stalking and harassing. She's doing all these things, right? Nobody cares about the truth. The mob, this mob mentality, none of them care about the truth. They only care about this person. We're going to demonize them. We're going to destroy anybody around them. We're going to isolate and conquer this person. And, I feel like any of these people, if they ever actually knew me in real life, if they met me, they would see what kind of person I am. Everybody in my life likes me. I'm a likable, kind person. I'm not a perfect person, right? I've certainly done things I've certainly done things that I regret in my life, and I think I've been punished accordingly. But the punishment here does not fit the crime. And the only crime I ever committed was publicly talking about being harassed. That is it. And somehow on every front, I have gotten no support. And the fact that this did not break me, Richard, and I'm not gonna tear up. The fact that this didn't break me is a goddamn miracle. I can't believe it. I honestly, every day, I'm like, I don't know how I got through that. And when I was looking through my screenshots last night, because I wanted to pull up some of these screenshots to, prove what I've said here in this, just so that you have it if you need it. Going back through and seeing all the harassment and all the documents that I have, it made me I had a hard time getting through my workday today, because even though it's still happening, it's happening way less. I'm sure the minute Danesh catches wind that I've had this interview with you, I'm sure we'll amp up again. Mm-hmm. And part of me was questioning whether or not I wanted to do this, but this behavior cannot continue to happen. It needs to be criminalized. The laws need to change.
I'm very happy you did do this interview. I think that there are a lot of victims out there that are suffering silently that will be inspired by you and by this. And I think that just keep vigilant. And if he does amp things up, document, because we're on him. I'm in contact with law enforcement. I'm in contact with lawyers. I'm in contact with politicians about Danesh. And I know many other people are, but there are about other people too. There are thousands of people whose lives have been ruined by this man. And not to mention 6 justices of the United States Supreme Court, as well as Lori Delatorre, who's supposed to celebrate her 50th birthday with her husband and her high school sweetheart, and she has an empty bed and an empty home, and an empty soul at this point. She's still hurting. This man is a merchant of misery, and I think people of good conscience have to come together and put a stop to him.
I agree with you. And that's what made me decide to do this today. I stayed silent for a very long time. These people have bullied me into silence and scared the crap out of me. And I know if I wasn't the strong person that I am, this would have taken me out. And it's going to take out more people. I do not think that the man in Texas is going to be the only one if this behavior continues. I think we're going to see a lot more. And I think it's up to us to stop it and speak out about it.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Yes. Thank you for having me on.
Okay.